and to one of the hardest times in American history. They were born on July 11, 1851, in North Carolina, during a period when slavery was still legal and black families could be bought and sold like property. Their parents, Jacob and Millie McKoy, were enslaved. Millie and Christine were conjoined twins, joined at the lower spine. Today we have medical terms for this, but in the 1800s, people often reacted with fear, ignorance, and cruelty. Instead of being protected as children, they were treated as something to display, something to profit from, and something to control. Because they were born enslaved, Millie and Christine had no legal rights. Their lives were not their own. While they were still very young, they were sold and exploited. People paid money just to stare at them, and they were pushed into exhibition spaces where crowds looked at them as entertainment. They were given stage labels like the Carolina Twins and the Two-Headed Nightingale. These were not names chosen with love or dignity. They were marketing tools used to attract paying audiences. In many places, the focus wasn't on who they were as children. The focus was on what people thought they were and how much money could be made from them. At some point, Millie and Christine were separated from their mother. That separation was not just painful, it was dangerous. Under slavery, family separation was common and reunions were rare. The twins were moved through show networks and taken far from home, including overseas to Europe. Imagine being a child, carried into unfamiliar places, surrounded by strangers, and not having the power to say no. Their story shows how exploitation could follow enslaved people even when it traveled across borders. But their story does not end in childhood captivity. Over time, their mother, Monimaya, was able to locate them, and they were reunited. That reunion matters because it represents something slavery constantly tried to destroy, the bond between parent and child. From there, the direction of their lives began to change. Instead of only being displayed, Millie and Christine began learning. They received education, which was rare and powerful for black girls born into slavery. They learned to read and write. They studied music. They became known for singing beautifully, performing with discipline, and developing real talent. Accounts describe them learning multiple languages as well, including English, French, and German. That detail is important because it shows how intelligent and hardworking they were, even in a world that tried to reduce them to a spectacle. As they grew older, Millie and Christine began to present themselves differently. They were not just being seen as a curiosity. They were becoming performers. They were often introduced as Millie Christine, emphasizing how closely they worked together in performance. They sang in harmony, and audiences were drawn not just to their appearance, but to their skill. It was a shift from being displayed to being heard. And while they still had to survive in a society that exploited difference, they also built a life where their talent had real value. They traveled widely and performed across the United States and internationally. Their careers, though shaped by forces beyond their control, became a space where they could gain more independence than they had as children. After the Civil War and the end of slavery in the United States, Millie and Christine were legally free. Freedom did not erase everything they had endured, but it changed what was possible. They continued to perform, and now they could earn money for their work. One of the most powerful parts of their legacy is that their story exists in written form. There is an autobiography connected to them that tells their lives in a way that brings in their voice and perspective. For Black women born into slavery, having a narrative recorded and circulated was rare. It means their lives were not only witnessed by audiences, but remembered in history. In their later years, Millie and Christine returned to North Carolina. They died in 1912, only hours apart. Their deaths, so close together, became one more reminder that their lives were deeply connected from beginning to end. They were buried together, and their graves remain a historical site. But the real legacy of Millie and Christine McKoy is not a headline, a stage name, or a poster. Their legacy is the truth that they were human beings, Black girls who became Black women, who endured slavery, exploitation, separation, and international spectacle, yet still developed talent, education, and presence that could not be erased. And that is why their story matters today. This is not a story for shock value. This is a story about survival and dignity. It forces us to think about how society treats people whose bodies are different and how Black people in the 1800s were often denied basic humanity. It also reminds us that there were many others whose stories were never written down, never preserved, and never honored. Millie and Christine are not the only ones who stood firm. They are simply two of the many whose lives show us the cost of exploitation and the strength it takes to endure it. By telling their story, we are not repeating the spectacle. We are restoring the humanity